I finally decided it's time to finish off Rebirth and take apart the last song on the album, which is Starlit Path. The fun fact with this song is that it was supposed to be the last track on the demo. It's actually one of the earlier songs that I started writing, but I wasn't able to finish it in a reasonable time to release it when the demo came out in September 2014. So it kind of just got pushed away, lost in the mix while I worked on Insomnia instead. With Rebirth, I had 4 tracks and they were all pretty short, 4 to 6 minutes long each. And I always knew this was going to be a longer song, so it seemed like the right time to bring it back. And the original lyrics actually kind of fit the theme of life and death for this album, so it made it very easy to adapt the song to the concept of Rebirth since I was in the right mindset at the time. Like most of this album, the guitars are very simple and pretty much just alternates between 2 chords. The song starts off with this basic acoustic riff in E Phrygian. The first chord there is an F add 9, which is phrased as a power chord with an open G. And what it does is it carries a melody which descends down the scale from an open G to just the power chord, and then to a 7 chord, back to the power chord. And then that goes to an E minor with the same melody. That's the basic main riff, and it repeats a whole bunch of times to create this song. The chorus is where the song gets crazy. It starts with E minor. To F add 9. And then a G. To an A power chord. And then it's back to the main riff. So that's pretty much the majority of the song I've already played there. It's about 75% of the content. Overall, there aren't a lot of intricate details in the guitars, but there are some interesting parts when you add the bass into the mix, which is very active and plays a lot of leads and harmonies, especially during the later sections of the song. But after the chorus, the main riff repeats again, and then we get a second chorus. At that point, an electric guitar comes in and plays simple power chords to beef up the section, so I'm going to go and switch to the electric guitar for the remainder of the song. At the third verse, the acoustic guitar drops out completely, so the electric guitar takes over for that main riff. After this, instead of a third chorus, the song actually moves to the treble pick lead. By itself, the lead is kind of dumb. It basically takes the form of a big slide followed by stepwise motion. I won't go over these note for note since it's very straightforward, but the idea was that at each chord change, I would naturally arrive at the correct root note, which doesn't always happen, but that's what I intended to achieve at the beginning. The lead is played over a modified version of the chorus riff. So start off in E minor, first note is E, it's going to slide up to the 5th, which is B, and then resolve downward. The next chord is F, and naturally the next note in the sequence, if we continue sliding downward, is also F. That's going to do the same thing. It's going to slide up to the 5th, which is C, and then resolve downward. The lead on the next chord takes a bit of a turn. It starts off the same exact way as before. It's an E, it slides up to the 5th, and then down to the 4th, but instead of continuing to resolve downward, it actually goes back up and finishes on the 5th again. The next chord is back to F, so the lead goes up a half step to the 5th of F, the C. The chord after this is G, so we're going to continue. And then the next chord is A, so we're going to play E, which is the 5th of A. Sliding down to the 1st, the A, and then moving back upwards stepwise. At this point, the natural chorus riff ends, but the lead is not done, so this is an extended version of that chorus riff, and we go back to the F, G, and A. So on F, naturally we've arrived back at F. And then on G, we're playing C. And then to A, we're on A. So again, the lead on its own is not that great. It's just a big slide followed by a lot of stepwise motion up and down. It's not really very intricate in any way at all. But when you add in the bass lines, there are some interesting counterpoints and harmonies that are created here. It's slightly cooler. Still, the section was mainly written to just create a break from some of the monotony of the verse-chorus structure. For the final verse of the song, the riff does change a bit. It goes into halftime, so there's twice as many bars between the chord changes, but it still does start on the F add 9 as usual. So it's F add 9, power chord, F major 7, and then an F minor 6. Or sorry, an F major 6. So a descending melody, just like in the lead. That's kind of the theme of the song. It just moves up and down in stepwise motion. And then to just the basic E minor. The final chorus is exactly the same as the ones before it, and that's pretty much all there is to the guitar parts for the song. At this point, you should rightfully be wondering why I claim to have so much trouble finishing the song. Like the whole album and pretty much all of my albums up until Return, I never considered myself a good composer of music, and always felt that riff writing was my greatest weakness. I don't care particularly for any of the riffs that were on Rebirth or the demo. The content was purely lyrically focused, and probably 80% of my effort was spent on perfecting each word, making sure every line added to the story had some sort of poetic imagery and included some sort of interesting rhyme. Starlit Path is an extreme instance where the music really means nothing to me at all, but the lyrics are among my favorites from this period. On Rebirth, each song tells the story of life and death. The song is about the death of a star and the birth of a planet from that star's death. It's scientific at the core, which is why I love it, but I also chose to incorporate Christian themes of virgin birth to add an extra layer to the story. The first verse begins with the Big Bang. From eternal night comes a sea of life, pouring down like rain. That basically describes the universe bursting out from the nothingness of space before. In a circle they gathered round and pray, enlightenment was their aim. Particles of matter, which in the early universe were hydrogen and helium, they come together through the gravitational attraction to form a cloud, which will eventually enlighten, conducting a mass as sacrificial lambs bursting into flames. Mass here has the double meaning of being the ceremony, as well as the increase of mass of this cloud over time, which increases the energy of the system until it reaches a point where fusion occurs and the cloud becomes a star through the sacrifice of those particles. Finally, sending out in waves, consecrated rays, illuminating the way. Now we have light. Already, there's a lot of wordplay and analogy being used to introduce just the theme of the song. It was not easy trying to unify these themes of space with, religious fanaticism, and it only got more difficult as I continued writing the song. So chorus 1, the starlit path will guide us through future and past, through space and time will pass, as we journey through the vast and endless universe. The choruses here serve to separate the story into different chapters. They don't really advance the story, it's more like a narrator from like the Twilight Zone. In a way, it summarizes the events of the previous verse. So now we have verse 2. Deep within a seed, virginally conceived, parasitically ingrained. Not the most positive description of Jesus here, but it's referring to the development of heavier and heavier particles within the star as the fusion reactions continue to cascade with time. Safe inside the womb, nourished while it grew, for some time it remained. What's being implied here is that the core of the planet that's soon to be born is being formed within the star. Until finally, stirring in its sleep, it could not be contained. This is a very Lovecraft-influenced line. It's implying some kind of restless creature is ready to burst out with terrible consequences. So the child emerged, completing the birth in a stellar display. Eventually the core grows to a point where the star supernovas and injects the planet in its own death, kind of like in an alien sort of way. Now that's not actually scientifically accurate on how planets are formed. The first verse of the Big Bang and star formation is kind of accurate, but planetary cores like the Earth's iron core, it doesn't form as a ball inside of a star and get shot out when the star dies. What I believe happened is that the stars just eject particulate matter, in novas and supernovas, and those particles will rotate around a gravitational body like a star or a large planet like Jupiter, and then they will clump together through their own gravity and become larger formations like moons or planets. But for the sake of the story, we'll pretend that what is described is actually what happens, and an iron core, an iron ball of a planet does get shot out of a star and just flies through space. So chorus 2, the starlit path will tell the tale of life and death, from beginning to the end, as we travel through the infinite fabric of time. So now we're following the journey, the adventure of this planet as it flies through the universe. Verse 3, mother passed away, into black she fade, yet she burned in his heart. This is referring to, of course, the iron core of the Earth now. Through the empty cold, frozen and alone, how it longed for the warmth. So essentially the planet is searching for a new mother, a new star system that it can occupy and find a place in the gravitational pull. Aeons came and went, all the time it spent searching out for a cause. Some like him he found, wandering unbound, still the child was lost. There's a weird contradiction here where at the beginning of the verse I refer to the planet as it, but then at the end I genderize it as he. I think I was actually trying to go for a Freudian mother-son relationship here. If you look at the last verse, it's supposed to be he all the way through, so I may have not noticed myself using it for the first part of the verse, or I just didn't want to see the same word over and over again, which is something that bothers me deeply. So the end of verse 3 is the point where the lead comes in. The purpose is to break things up musically, but it's also here as part of the story to indicate the passage of time, which is something that I usually do when I write in leads and solos. Whenever there is a long break between what's happening in the events of the story, that's usually where a lead or a solo will fit in. The final verse. But when all hope had been forsaken, he came across a light by chance. Drawn towards it, he was taken by its mesmerizing glance. So here we see that the planet has finally found a star, our star, the sun, and it's captured by its gravitational pull to join the solar system. Suddenly he felt awakened, in many circles did he dance, finding shelter in this haven, a place to call its home at last. Final chorus. The starlit path unveils the grand cosmic trail. With every second it reveals, and so the story goes on and on between the stars. And that's the starlit path. It's the story of the birth of our planet, the Earth, carried by the rays of light that are sent forth from star to star that allow us to follow the history of this universe. So it seems very simple going over it now, but the song really did take a long time for me to finally complete. I, of course, was working on other stuff at the same time, which was, a major distraction. But I am finally happy with how it turned out, at least from a lyrical standpoint. I don't really care much about the music. It's simple, basic, by intent. They were really supposed to just serve as backdrops for the lyrics to be presented, so to speak. For that reason, I really don't listen to these songs much anymore, mostly because they're just kind of boring from a musical standpoint. I know the lyrics already really well, so I have nothing to gain from hearing them again. But I think I'll save my final thoughts for a wrap-up video, which will come very soon because, well, tomorrow is the 4-year anniversary of this album, making it the perfect time to close the book on what is a special release for me.